I'd like to ask Albert Bourla, who, of course, we had celebrated at our last CEO summit for the exciting news and the breakthrough with Pfizer's the virus in terms of its effectiveness. And of course, it's now almost ubiquitous nature. And Albert, if you would speak first, and then we'll turn to Alex Gorsky of Johnson & Johnson. And then I believe the president of Yale, Peter Salovey, will actually present the award, which actually I think Dr. Fauci already has physically, hopefully present. Albert?
I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to say a few words about Tony, who is the most trusted scientist right now in the world. Prior to COVID, me and Tony have never met. We spoke a lot during the COVID season. Actually, we never met physically, but I clearly knew him. I knew him because he was very famous in our world, in the world of life sciences. And he was known for three things. The first, of course, was his scientific work. He's a very prolific scientist that he has published so much, particularly in the field of infectious diseases. The second, he was known for his integrity as a long-serving public servant. And the third was he was known for his straight style and non-bullshit style. I thought, no, we are not, we are on the record, I want to say, BC style. And this is the quality of the character that got him into troubles, I would say, numerous times through his career. But also, this is the quality that gave him the reputation that we all know right now as the most trusted scientist in the country and probably the most trusted scientist around the world. And speaking around trust, let me share a story that on November 8th, it was a Sunday, I became aware probably of the most material information at the time for the world, since maybe the night before the dropping of the bomb in Hiroshima. That time, of course, the material information was for good, not for bad. We knew that the world will have a vaccine of 95.6% efficacy. Of course, we was very concerned about leaks before we'll be able to announce this information properly to the entire world. So we were very careful to whom we speak. That night, I called only two people. The first one was an obligation for me. I called FDA's head of vaccines, Peter Marks, and announced to him the results. The second one was a moral obligation for me. So I called Tony in his home. And the first thing that I told him, I remember, was, Tony, are you sitting? And Tony knew that we may know that day results. So he took this initial comment, which was kind of a joke, are you sitting, very seriously. He realized either it's very good the news or very bad. And then I told him. So he told me, tell me what? And then I told him, you know, it's 94 cases, 90 for the placebo, 4 for the vaccine. That's 95.6%. You know, Tony is a very measured individual, as we can all see. It was the first time that I saw him so emotional. We ended up the call by saying, Albert, this is a game changer. And then we hanged off. And I felt a joy. I was feeling actually happier about him than happier about me. I was working 9 months on this. I placed a significant bet and I was hitting the jackpot that day. And I was happier for him. And I realized the reason was that I fell for him. For 9 months, he was standing tall. He was taking all the blows. And he was able to maintain the scientific integrity in an environment that was extremely hostile for something like that. I think Tony did so many things in his life, but he will clearly be remembered mostly about being the voice that united Americans and the world in a world that was divisive and counter to scientists. So, Tony, thank you very much.
Albert, thank you very much. And thank you for never sharing that with 60 Minutes or any of your other recent media profiles on that. That's such a powerful saga, a great vignette. And Alex?
Well, thank you very much. And it's always a pleasure to follow Albert. And again, I want to congratulate Albert and Pfizer for the incredible work that they've done as well as so many of my other colleagues in the biopharmaceutical industry, to bring us to this important moment where we are today. But Albert, again, leading the way, a tremendous accomplishment. Thanks for all that you're doing for people around the world. Look, it's a real honor to get to co-introduce Dr. Tony Fauci. So much of this introduction could literally go without saying just by watching the Brett Pitt introduction, hearing Albert's comments. And Jeff, kudos to you with this award, because this does recognize living legends. And I think there's a history. If you take a look at the people who have been so honored, you think about words like character, you think about words like creativity, you think about words or characteristics like spirit. And Tony certainly embodies all of those things. And very importantly, he embodied them at a very important time, not only for our country, but for the world. And I'm not sure we've ever seen ourselves so polarized, so politicized, and frankly, so pundit-sized. And I think I can make up that word, as we have over the last 12 or 24 months, given the dynamics that we've been experiencing. But as we navigated our way through all that and found a way to somehow get by, there was one calming voice, one voice of reason. As Albert said, there was no BS, that we could trust, and that we knew in the end was truly trying to do the right thing. It was clearly Dr. Tony Fauci. And I have one story with Dr. Fauci, because many of us saw him on television, or have seen him on television literally daily, and in front of the media. I think what a lot of people don't see is the Dr. Fauci that's constantly working behind the scenes as well, who would literally every Saturday morning talk with the heads of research and development of all the pharmaceutical companies, sharing and collaborating information in a way that, in my more than 30 years in this industry, I've never seen happen. That I could call on Saturday morning where there was maybe a concern about the direction something was heading, and Dr. Fauci would say, "No, let me see if I can understand what you said. Is this really what you said?" Yes, Tony, that's it. He goes, "I'll take care of that for you." And you knew it was going to be done. And so on behalf of all of us, not only in this industry who have been so dedicated to getting us to this moment that we're starting on now, Dr. Fauci, but all the CEOs and all the other stakeholders on this, thank you for bringing or representing the very best of leadership for our country at this particular time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Of course, congratulations on your single shot and your great collaboration today to be celebrated with President Biden. And thanks for fitting in this visit, of course, but also for that poignant insight as well on your own history and experience, but also talking about what this award stands for, that is so characterized by the character of Anthony Fauci. This is to celebrate the many of you out there that are doing great things, often spilling over across sectors, that are alive and well with us today, that we can have a set of lessons from people who can still keep teaching us. And that's why we're so thankful of all this, for all this. And talking about teaching and lessons brings us to the university campus. And President Salovey is a wonderful thing, Peter, of course, as we know and appreciate, at least me from afar, is how this is somebody who is not just able to communicate to every sector of society in his 24/7 media appearances, and of course to all the different political and professional audiences, but also to all of our scholarly friends in microbiology and virology and public health that all consider him a friend and a colleague, as well as a top scholar. Peter?
Well, thank you, Jeff, and it's great to be here with you. And I thank the 256 people who are with us today. This is an incredibly impressive group, and it's an honor for me to be with you, and it's a pleasure to be able to drop in on one of Jeff's programs. Always a thrill. I can't tell you how grateful I am to Albert and Alex and for the work that their companies are doing, that the industry is doing to put us all on a healthier path. And it's a pleasure for me to join with them as well. At a time when we can hope for an end to the pandemic, because of the availability of vaccines, to think about the leaders of Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson taking a moment out of what just must be the most intense period of their lives to help us honor Dr. Fauci. That's something for which I know Jeff and I are both very grateful, and we all should be. So I'll be a little bit parochial because our colleagues have really outlined what Dr. Fauci has done for our nation, indeed for the world, over the past 12 months during this public health crisis. He was incredibly important figure in previous public health crises, and I first got to know him just a little bit when HIV/AIDS was the public health crisis that we were most encountering. All of this time, for essentially his whole professional life, he has been unwavering in his commitment to public service. That's actually an understatement. And yes, unwavering in his commitment to public service, but unwavering in his commitment to the truth, to scientific evidence, to communicating to a public that may be not always believing, and to working across party lines to ensure the health of our country. He's tackled, obviously, in his career, some of the most critical medical and public health challenges that have faced us, that have faced the entire world. And he's an inspiration. I think he's an inspiration to everyone on this call. And he's an inspiration, certainly here at Yale, to our students, who really, so many of whom want to follow in his footsteps. We have a school of medicine, we have a school of public health, we have a school of nursing here at Yale. They look at him as a scientist, a humanistic physician, a public servant. They admire him for being able to blend trailblazing research with clinical practice to work highly effectively on public health policy. And we're particularly grateful here at Yale for Dr. Fauci's willingness to always take time out and engage our students. So we had the pleasure of presenting him with an honorary Doctor of Medical Science degree at our commencement in 2003. Since then, he's returned to Yale many times. He spoke to our Yale School of Medicine graduates in 2016. Last October, he launched a new speaker series for the Yale Institute for Global Health, and he's delivering the commencement address for the Yale School of Public Health this year. His dedication to serving the common good, to galvanizing the next generation of scientists and clinicians, exemplifies qualities that we want to instill in our students. And I am so grateful, not just for what he has done for the country and the world, which of course we're all grateful for, but I'm also personally grateful for his willingness to be such an inspiration to our students, especially on their graduation days. So Dr. Fauci, thank you. Thank you for your efforts to improve the health and well-being of Americans, of people around the world. And it's my pleasure to join Albert and Alex and Jeff to present you with the Legend in Leadership Award.
Thank you so much, Peter. And thank you, Alex, and thank you, Albert, for those three beautiful presentations. And I could list for you, but won't, the Sylvia Matthews Burwells and so many others who have been your colleagues, your bosses, and others who could all have done fabulous, eloquent, and knowledgeable presentations as well. But you couldn't do better than the three we have, and I want to thank those three. Dr. Fauci, I believe you actually have our trophy already delivered.
Yes, it's right here. Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, sorry.
Jeff, first of all, I want to thank you for hosting this, and obviously thanking the Yale School of Management. Peter, Albert, and Alex, thank you so much for those very kind introductions. It really was with a great deal of gratitude, and I must say sincerely humility in accepting this recognition. particularly in light of the people who've received it before me, whenever one receives a recognition like this, it always reminds me very acutely of the extraordinary effort of so many other people in what I, as a public figure, often either articulate and or get credit for. But we have to keep reminding ourselves of the extraordinary effort that is put in by so many individuals, from the executives of the companies like Albert and Alex, who have actually put in such an extraordinary effort to get these interventions that now will be life-saving, literally, for millions of people, to the people who are in the trenches every day, healthcare providers taking care of desperately ill people in the context of putting themselves at risk every day for their own health and that of their families. I just want to make a couple of comments about some of the issues that were actually discussed in the discussion that I was listening to before I came on. We have really been living through, and we are still there, through a truly historically transforming pandemic, the likes of which we have not seen in over 102 years, since the now legendary pandemic of influenza of 1918. As you've heard the numbers, they are stunning in their magnitude, with 525,000 deaths in the United States and 28 million infections. And it is not over. I don't mean that in a way to get people to be depressed or scare them, but only to tell them that we are clearly going in the right direction. Clearly, with regard to the vaccines that are now available, and every single day, at least 2 million people get vaccinated. And hopefully, as we get into the late spring and early summer, we will have the majority of people in this country vaccinated until we get probably to the middle and end of the summer, when we'll have the overwhelming majority of people vaccinated. You hear us all always speak with a word of caution that despite these advances, we need to make sure that we do it prudently when we pull back for what we all want, is that a stepwise progress towards the return to some form of normality, not only for the physical and mental well-being of everyone in this country, but also because of the extraordinary economic impact that what had to be done from a public health standpoint has had. And you don't need me to delineate that for you, because you probably understand it and appreciate it better than I do, although I do have to live with that consequent every day that we make a public health decision. The one thing I do want to recognize and emphasize is what has been a most extraordinary collaboration between the people who implement the fundamental basic preclinical and clinical science with the pharmaceutical industry. You have there Albert and Alex, and also other companies, Moderna, Novavax, Sanofi, and other companies, all of which have been part of an extraordinary teamwork, which we always talk about the importance of basic and applied clinical research in getting interventions that are meaningful to people. But I think history, decades and decades from now, are going to point to this example of how the pharmaceutical company, the federal government, and academia pulled together to do something that just a few years ago people would have said would be impossible. And that is to go from the time you recognize a new deadly pathogen, in this case, the SARS-CoV-2, in January of 2020, and then 11 months later, you are putting into the arms of individuals a highly efficacious, safe vaccine. That is something, as I mentioned, that no one at all would have predicted a few years ago, but it was only because of the extraordinary investment in fundamental basic science that has been in there for years that anteceded the recognition that we were dealing with a new disease. But importantly, and I tip my hat to the big pharmaceutical companies who've stepped to the plate and assumed the responsibility of doing something that was really, when we look back on it, will be life-saving to millions and millions of people. And I really do want to sincerely tip my hat to that group and say that we are really very proud to have been part of that partnership, which continues to today. So having said that, I wanted to thank you again for this extraordinary honor. It is much appreciated. Thank you very much.
I am told, Dr. Fauci, this is so representative of you that as a tribute is coming your way, you would reflect it and bounce it back to all those presenting it. And we share your sentiment. It's so well deserved. Ambassador Andrew Young similarly did this when we gave a presentation to him for a lifetime of service. He instead brought in the business community, how when they get it right and work together in collaboration, there's nothing that can't be accomplished, and how social change so meaningfully happens with the kind of business leadership we have on this call, but it's also working with public officials like you. And I won't add to it because I know that you're probably 20 minutes late, thanks to me, from 12 other commitments. And you'll get over your dislike for me eventually because you'll have 50 other commitments that you'll forget that we kept you this late. But it was Baruch Spinoza who said several hundred years ago that citizenship is not born, it's earned. And you're just such a great model on how public citizenship, global citizenship, and certainly U.S. patriotic citizenship is just earned every minute of your waking hours, and a tremendous inspiration. Thank you, all of you. And I'm sorry to all that I didn't get the call on. Please come back and see us in June, including Dr. Fauci. We'll have a different world for sure. You don't have to make any promises. We won't be live in person in June, but we will be in September. So thanks to you, Dr. Fauci, and to all the pharma scientists. Thank you again, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.